make sure you're subscribed to Jerkrispy.
All right, man. Been a minute, man. Look, a minute, man. I'm just not gonna hold you. Watching on these cartoon theories, I've been laying back on it. I've been trying to watch all the other stuff. Over here, though, we got nine. The horrifying highlighted of Clifford, the big red dog. Y'all remember Clifford, man? The little big red dog, bro. Everybody loved Clifford. Everybody wanted a dog just like Clifford. Who else didn't want a Clifford as a little kid? Big dog. You can ride on his back. Have fun. He's woo woo. Who else? But for all my new subscribers, welcome to the channel. It's your host, the most that does the most, Jerkrispy. And welcome back. I watch a lot of things on this channel. If you want me to watch whatever you want me to watch, make sure you hit the comments of any videos, and I will get to you, and I will be able to watch your video. So, yeah. And also tell a friend to a family that your boy Jerkrispy is on the way, on the road to 500. Let's get it.
This is biologically impossible, whether due to mass, food requirement, or even the color of his fur. Clifford the big red dog is a nightmare of science and biology cursed upon us by PBS kids. Now in this video I have one goal: to figure out how immensely wrong Clifford is and explain the gravity of his insanity, but also try to figure out how Clifford could exist. What is the most realistic but still horrifying Clifford we can made? Can his fur still naturally be dipped in blood? Can he somehow be the size of an apartment without breaking all known physics? Let me explain. Clifford shouldn't be terrifying. He should just be a lovable, perfectly normal dog in a children's book. But in a video like this, he becomes something far, far worse. A scientific abomination. This all comes down to one single problem, being the square cube law. It's a single tool in physics that makes a Clifford-sized dog impossible. See, when you grow a normal-sized organism like a dog or a spider or a monkey, its surface area increases, but so does its volume and its mass, and the scary part of those two last things is they accelerate far faster in growth than just the surface area. It's pretty simple, really. When you expand a big box, the inside of that box is going to be increasingly larger than just the surface of the box. And if that box is a literal dog, things get very bad. See, the actual real problem with the square cube law is how it affects his mass, his bones and muscles, and generally the fact his body is not designed to be the size of a literal blue whale. This is actually true. Clifford is the size of an apartment, and a blue whale is about this size. So Clifford is as tall as a blue whale is in length at the very least. Great. Clifford, simply put, in mass alone wouldn't work. He would collapse.
Still question me to this day. How did they get Clifford out that apartment when he started growing in the intro? Ain't nobody ever asked and thought about that. Like, how did they get that man out the apartment? Like, I just want to know, how did they get this man out that apartment? Because ain't no way. They got his big self. This big dog right here. You got that big dog out of the apartment? Nah, bro.
The weight, his bones would shatter as they would be put under way too much stress, and his muscles would simply snap. But that isn't even the worst thing that could happen to Clifford. No, it's what's building inside that large body. A quiet force that doesn't care what's inside it and will consume everything in its path. Heat, and a lot of it. See, this is the true bigger problem for Clifford that, while harder to see than collapsing bones, is far, far worse. Because even if somehow his legs held together, even if his skeleton was miraculously reinforced enough to keep him upright, Clifford still has to do something far more difficult than standing. He has to get rid of heat. See, every living thing produces heat just by being alive. Cells burn energy, muscles are contracting, even organs are simply working in the background. Now, in smaller animals, this isn't really a big deal. Heat finds its way out very easily, and very little is building up inside, say a mouse. But Clifford isn't small. He's a massive, fur-covered dog, not built to keep up with the heat that would build, and this is where he ends up dying from said heat. See, while heat production happens
Can we please stop saying these characters is dying? Like, I cannot go with one theory without somebody saying, "Oh my god, yes, this character is dying slowly. It's mentally hurting us." Like, no, he's not.
Happens throughout the entire body, heat loss happens on the surface. This means as animals get larger, their insides multiply faster than their outsides, which means Clifford wouldn't just be warm, he'd be accumulating warmth, trapping it inside him, holding onto it, creating a literal insulated vacuum that would melt his own organs. Real large animals already struggle with this. Elephants rely on massive ears laced with blood vessels, flapping heat into the air and covering themselves with mud. Hippos spend most of their lives submerged. Whales even offload heat into the entire ocean to stay alive, and Clifford has fur. Bright red, no less. This very much does not help him. Now, while yes, he does have elephant-like ears, we have no clue on how they're actually designed internally, and plus, there is a size where they simply wouldn't help him. And that isn't even the worst thing, because heat is only half the problem. See, Clifford's insides also affect his metabolism. Clifford's body doesn't burn energy the way a normal dog does, because metabolism doesn't scale between his size. It follows something called Kleber's law, which says that as animals get larger, they become somewhat more energy efficient, but not nearly enough to compensate for sheer mass. His cells would still demand an obscene amount of fuel just to keep his heart pounding. This means he wouldn't just risk overheating, he'd be hungry constantly, in an enormous unstable amount where he would have an endless stomach always needing to be fed. At this point, for Clifford to exist, he is fighting his own biology, and that's without going over the actual amount of food he would need to survive. Now, this is where things go really, really bad, not biologically, but just realistically, for any family who has a Clifford-sized dog. You need to feed it. Even using the most generous scaling and math, you're still looking at thousands of pounds of dog food a day, which creates multiple very bad problems. See, a normal dog might eat a few cups of kibble a day. You can fit this in a dog bowl. But when scaling that up, honestly, you're no longer dealing with bowls. At this point, you're filling a literal boat with dog food every single meal. The storage alone for that must be insane and very expensive, along with, of course, the cost of the dog food. We're looking at least $1,500 a day in dog food, based on very nice estimates, which in a year is over $500,000 being spent on...
Now that depends, though, because literally, if the bowl that big, right, it depends how many he have to eat. Like allegedly we did have like a Clifford on some stuff. Low-key, it probably would take like about about $5,000 to $7,000 for like, cause filling it up is probably gonna take about 4 hours at max, unless you got the little like shrink rage and all that type of stuff, making the food big and all that. So,
food alone, ignoring water consumption, storage for this food, all coming down to probably millions a year. Like, he would literally drink 68,000 gallons of water a day, and if he was given a non-kibble diet, would need to eat over 8 whole goats a day to keep alive. And this alone still isn't the worst thing Clifford's owners would have to deal with, or more, not the grossest. See, while not exactly a fun thing to talk about, I think mentioning that Clifford is a dog and while a living thing means he's to do a certain something. Clifford has to shit a lot, and that makes me question, where is this?
Yeah, somebody did brought that up. No, Belize, yes, Belize said, where do he got his at specifically? And then who's cleaning that up after that big old mess? That's the real question. Who is cleaning that up? Unless they got transportation with the big aerobot thingies, picking it up from the sky and putting it onto the dump or something like that.
Where's it going? Where are his owners putting these literal pounds of feces? My only theory is they're selling it and turning it into some form of fertilizer, which would help offset the intense, all-consuming cost of owning a Clifford. Now, to top off all his biological problems, we can't even get the color of his fur to make sense in the real world. Clifford is red, not brown red, blood red. This does not make sense. See, a dog's coat colors comes from one simple thing: melanin. Pigment produced cell by cell, hair by hair. There are two kinds that matter here: eumelanin, which gives you black, brown, and gray, and phenomelanin, which is responsible for yellows, tans, oranges, and what we casually describe as red in dogs. That's the pigment behind Irish
Nah, I'm not
setters.
gonna hold you. And I did saw this before. I could tell y'all this quick story. It's a quick story. I remember when me and my twin brother was little, right? And we was going to school. I think it had to be third or fourth grade. There was a dog down our block that used to just be roaming, right? And he had 3 legs, like, and we called that man like Orange or something like that. I forgot what that man name, but I think we called him Orange or something like that. But he had 3 legs and stuff like that, and we used to like pet him and all that other stuff. He was a nice, friendly dog to. So he used to always come by every morning. He used to come sit by us and chill with us and stuff like that. And then he used to like wait for us after school too. So like, I don't know. He was eating something. I don't know what he was eating, but he was eating something. I think about like what? No, I think we were bringing him something to eat from school. Yeah, I think. Yeah, it was like warm though. It was like warm food. We were getting this man like warm food. Like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I think, and then like 2 months later, after that, I think we found out like what house he stayed at and stuff like that. It was like a dude, like a black old dude who was feeding him and stuff like that. I said, oh well, at least we know what he be, doing. But after that, like I said, 5 months down the line, we ain't never see that dog again. I think that dog had, like, the owner man had came to like looking for him, and I think he like, I don't know what happened to him, like physically happened to him. But like that one morning, that man had came to us like, yeah, the orange dog had died, and he talked about one night he like let him out, and like he never came back that night. So I don't know, like he's dead or still alive to this day. But rest in peace to Orange, man. That was my dog, one of my dogs too. Besides King Prince, Bella Kazi, and Queen, man. And my dog King, bro. You feel me?
Red poodles, fox red labradors. But even at this absolute upper limit, when female melanin is being expressed as strongly as biology allows, the color tops out at copper, a warm, earthy red, very much diluted compared to the blood red stop sign color fur Clifford has. His color isn't copper or fox red or anything that shifts with light. It's saturated, past what the pigment of a dog can even produce. Chemically, it doesn't absorb and reflect enough light strongly enough to ever appear that scarlet. So when trying to make our own Clifford, we can't even hit his color right, as there's no way to make his pigment magically more red. And really, after all these biological problems, whether his bones, mass, muscles, food supply, or even the color of his fur, Clifford wouldn't really work as a dog. He is truly a biological nightmare, unable to walk the earth, which to be honest is probably a good thing. At this point, the problems are so overwhelming. There's literal basic fundamental aspects of Clifford that each in their own way would kill him if he really existed. This is very much a problem for our idea of making a realistic Clifford the Big Red Dog. In the end, you can't just fix this by reinforcing bones or tweaking diet. You have to fundamentally strip away what makes Clifford Clifford and ask the question, what could a creature that has the characteristics of Clifford, the size, color, maybe even some of the dog-like features, do to possibly exist in our world? Because if Clifford is real, it isn't enough to simply stretch out a labradoodle to the insane size he is. You need something drastic. Animals like Clifford simply can't walk the earth. Whether it's gravity, the heat problem, or even his color, land animals don't have the characteristics all built together to get to this enormous size. But sea animals do. Animals like blue whales, which are close to the size of Clifford, exist because the ocean removes so many of the problems a land dog like Clifford would face. Let me explain. See, the first problem we dodge by dropping Clifford in the ocean is gravity. On land, mass is non-negotiable, really. Every kilogram has to be carried, balanced, and redirected to every
Well, I think you're going to nod. I think you're going into deep with this one, because just to keep it real with you, I feel like Clifford could low key be good, but the downside of seeing a big red dog in person, with low key might be scary. But to me, it's just a normal dog to me. To me, it's a normal dog. To everybody else, it's, oh my God, where did this dog come from? And that's an alien. Blah 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 blah. And that's when the military will come, and then we'll be on some like we'll be on some Stranger Thing type stuff. Military. Then we had to be hiding the dog and stuff like that. Like little stuff like that. But in general.
Single step by our animal. That's why terrestrial animals hard cap around a very specific range, somewhere near 100 tons. Because past that number, their legs simply stop working, which kind of kills a species from moving forward in evolution. Now, in research I did for this video, the first thing I looked at was dinosaurs to see if we could pass Clifford off as one, but that doesn't really work either. Just to remind you, Clifford at bare minimum is probably 25 feet tall, but really is more 30 to 40 feet estimate. See, dinosaurs worked because they were optimized, straight legs stacked under massive torsos and very slow movement for the bigger animals. It's why a T-Rex had such small arms, because they were evolved to not really use them like another animal would. But even with all this, large dinosaurs lived on the edge. There's still in the end was a limit in size they would have been based on fossils, and of course they were designed to be said size, not scaled up to be 10 times bigger than they were supposed to be. So, if I want Clifford to really exist in any way that makes sense according to the wonderful world of science, I need to start not with making their bones stronger, but finding a way to just remove some of this intense weight from the mass of Clifford. A way to stop fighting gravity altogether, really. And to do this, we need to go to the one place on Earth that as an environment will literally offset this horrible mass problem: the ocean. Water doesn't just help support mass, it practically erases most of it. Buoyancy offloads weight instantly, turning crushing forces into manageable ones. So, all these insane needs, like column-sized bones, wouldn't really need to be needed in the first place, as his body would be able to keep together if he was, well, a fish. It's truly the only way. Clifford the big red dog has to become a very big red fish, who's also a dog, but like a fish dog. Making him a fish would of course change around some of his physical biology, with him being far more whale and shark-like.
Nah, I don't see a fish dog. I don't see that into Clifford. I see like he's just gonna be a big dog, and everybody just keep looking at him. It's like, how the floats that be coming around during Thanksgiving time, and they be showing all the floats. Like, that's what we'll probably just be looking at that. Or them, like, big monster trucks that y'all be going to. I ain't never went to a monster truck, really. I want to go one and vlog it one day, but besides that, y'all be like, it just be like that. I feel like Clifford will be acceptable, but it's gonna be hard for him to be acceptable in the society, just seeing a big dog running around and roaming around the streets and stuff like that. So
But it would be way more possible for him to keep features of a dog, like the skull, and still survive versus being on land and, well, dead. Now, the next thing solved by making him a fish is heat. See, if Clifford was a land animal, he would literally be a ball of scorching fire, boiling his internal organs. But when placed in the ocean, that heat, like mass, can be displaced by the ocean as water literally absorbs heat. This is very useful to our very big friend, as without this very large heat displacement method, Clifford's body on its own wouldn't be able to let out the heat boiling inside of him. But as a sea creature, this problem fades away just like the heat. The next very large annoying issue that we fix is the fact we can still have our Clifford be his iconic blood red color, just maybe not in fur. See, on land, fur acts as well a protection. It traps heat to keep an animal cool in freezing temps, acts as a buffer from the environment, and can smooth out temperature swings. On something Clifford's size though, fur really is only an additional problem to his list of ways he could be murdered by his own biology. It's literally insulation layered on top of a dying ball of fire. So, the fur has to go. And once that's done, we can actually get the red color we wanted. Because Clifford's redness was never a dog problem, it was a mammal problem. On land, mammals are trapped in a very certain range of pigment. Melanin only stretches so far in the color spectrum. And well, that nice stop sign red is literally chemically out of reach for a mammal. But the ocean doesn't actually use something like melanin to base its colors off of. Marine life basically cheats. It borrows pigment indirectly from food instead of melanin. And in water, these pigments are very common. They don't fade into oranges, they don't soften into brown, they stay red. So while yes, a red dog is impossible, a red aquatic animal is completely normal, which means Clifford's most unrealistic trait might actually be the easiest one to explain once you stop insisting he lives on land. Now, there still is another problem that I haven't mentioned that the oceans yet again fix, being how Clifford's height would really in the end just not work out. This is because on land, blood has to literally fight gravity gravity. Every heartbeat is a vertical system, pushing oxygen up to the brain, dragging completed blood back from the extremities, and maintaining pressure across inches of height without rupturing vessels or starving tissue. As bodies get taller, this becomes harder and harder for the body, as blood is having to travel higher and higher. This is already difficult for, say, a giraffe, which has evolved to combat this, but is an example of an upper limit. Now scale to Clifford, and well, things get ugly very fast. The heart would be pumping a lot of blood, and that blood would have to travel fighting against gravity. That would be most likely not possible, and the heart would simply fail. But with water, that problem is gone, because water changes the orientation that a creature evolves in, making it so instead of getting taller in height, it grows in length. Whales, sharks, all these creatures are large in size, but not that great.
So now you're basically saying Clifford is gonna be like a sea dog, basically. He's going inland and he's like on some Octoman stuff so he can breathe inland. And, you know, he just, every time he drank water, the water saved him for the whole entire day. So every time he eat, you know, the water saved him on some stuff, basically.
In height and mainly in length. This means blood is no longer having to climb. It circulates laterally, distributing the oxygen without constantly working against gravity, as the body is actually built way more efficiently for blood flow. This is why the largest animals on Earth are horizontal, because in the end, a large animal being tall is really useless in evolution, and with gravity, the whole idea of a very tall animal also just doesn't really work out. Now, this does mean our Clifford is very different than he originally was. He's a massive whale-like creature, not huge in height, but instead length and size. He can have the skull of a dog, and even the playful nature, but instead of blood-red fur, he has blubber and tight skin. But with these changes, Clifford could still make it through the many hurdles of his biology, like his size, color, or the horrifying heat problem that would be boiling inside him. This is my pitch for a realistic, biologically correct Clifford the Big Red Fish. In the end, I think we learned many horrifying things, and why no scientist on this planet should ever, and I repeat, ever, try and attempt to make Clifford the Big Red Dog in the real world. Because once you do, you—
Not gonna hold you. Clifford in the big world, but low key, like, be scarified for other people. But to me, it would probably like be like, damn, like that's a big dog. I mean, that's what it is.
You either have a pile of red liquid covering your walls, or a horrifying monster that you've—
Nah, I don't think Clifford would be horrified. Like at best, to be honest with you, I feel like Clifford might low key be a dub to the community. You know, who knows? You know, he might like get away for traffic
unleashed on the
like
oceans with an endless, all-consuming hunger. If you would like more videos like this, click on this playlist right here for my over-analyzing science videos on nostalgic show.
Oh yeah, I did watch the Emma one. Wait. When did I watch the Emma one? Yeah, I did. I watched the Emma one. I'm tripping. All right. I was just thinking about something, y'all. But love y'all. I'm gonna roll to 500. For all the new subscribers, shout out to y'all. And all the new people that's coming in. What's up? Welcome to the Crispy Boys and Crispy Girls. The Crispy family, man. Welcome. And yeah.